Hello everyone, and welcome to English 121 Week 1. This week, you're going to watch the Week 1 introduction to the class, that's this video. You're going to read and understand the class syllabus and discussion rubric. I'd like you to participate in the introduction conversation. There's a video found on our interactive textbook by Dana Gioia on reading a story. You're going to read and understand the active reading checklist. You're going to read literature, chapter 1, reading a story. That's found on pages 5 through 13. And it's optional, but I encourage you to read literature, chapter 46, which is writing as discovery, keeping a journal. Some great tips on keeping a journal. Then you're going to write your first journal entry on fables. So welcome to English 121. You are in my favorite class to teach, and I'm really excited to get to have the opportunity to teach this class online. In this class, we're going to be discovering how to closely read and write about fiction, poetry, and drama. Any of the overachievers in this class that are watching this lecture who would like to get 10 extra credit points to start off this semester, please identify all three people in all the authors on this page, and I will give you 10 extra credit points. So the first thing I like to say is we have a class syllabus posted in our Blackboard environment. Please make sure you check it out and review it. It's found under Course Basics. New weekly content is posted on Wednesday morning, and it is due by the following Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. each week. I encourage you to log in at least 3 times a week, and I especially encourage you to log in on Wednesdays to review the weekly content. That way you can contact me early on if you have any questions. Each week you will be reading selections from our textbook, Literature, an Introduction to Fiction, Poetry, Drama, and Writing. Please make sure that you have the interactive version of this book, because we will be watching videos and using the interactive features of this textbook. If you have any questions about that, just contact me. Make sure you know how to log into my literature lab and that you can locate the e-text. This is where the videos and other interactive content can be found. If you ever have any questions, please email me or stop by my office hours. See instructor details for a listing of my office hours, because I absolutely love talking about literature. You will be graded on your participation. That's 40% of your grade. And your formal assignments, such as essays. You're going to be writing an essay about fiction, an essay about poetry, and an essay about drama. You'll be taking a midterm, a final, and doing a final project in this class. And that's worth 60% of your grade. All right. This week, you're going to begin our discussion forums with an introduction. Our discussion forum is where a lot of the magic of our course is going to happen. This is where we'll hold discussions about the text we're reading and the assignments that we're working on. If you want to do well in this class, you're going to have to participate in class discussions. Don't forget to review the rubric I posted under Getting Started. This document will provide you with details on how you'll be graded in discussion forums. This forum, just like every other forum, is worth 10 points. You need to post your own post by this Saturday, so your main post, and then you need to respond to at least 3 of your peers' posts by the following Tuesday. When you begin a post, you want to start with an address, such as Dear Class. And then you want to end your post by signing your name, such as Thanks, or See you later, Dr. Dunkel. Title your post with your name, such as Dunkel/Introductions. Our first discussion forum is where you'll get to know one another. One of the most important parts of being successful in an online environment is to get to know the community that you're going to be learning with. So this week, your first task is to post an introduction. Please post the following information in your own post. Your full name, and if appropriate, your nickname or the name you'd like us to address you by in class. Post where you're from and any details you'd like to share about your family. Tell us when you felt like an insider as a reader, and then tell us when you felt like an outsider. So when I say an insider, tell us when you felt like you really understood a text, or you really understood a story, or you felt like you got it more than anybody else, or you got it just like everybody else. And then I'd like you to post a time when you felt the opposite of that, when you felt like you weren't an insider, where everybody else seemed to get it and you didn't. I really look for, and then finally, I'd like you to post a photograph of yourself. That way, we can really see what each other, what we all look like. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, feel free to just post a picture of something that you love. All right, we're going to start off by looking at a video. This is Dana Gioia reading on his video, reading a story. Now, Dana Gioia is the one of the editors of this collection. He used to be the president of the National Endowment for the Arts, and he lives part-time in Sonoma County, and he's actually a good friend of mine. He's a really great guy, and he really understands reading and reading literature. So he has an opening short video here about how reading a story is like having a conversation with the author. To get to it, I'd like you to log into My Literature Lab, click on the e-text, and then under Table of Contents, click on Watch the Video. Click on Watch Dana Gioia as he discusses reading a story. How to read text for this class. So when you read text for this class, you need to read them actively. That means before you read, I want you to think about who the author is. Do you know anything about the author? Think about what genre the text is. Is it fiction? Is it poetry? Is it drama? When was it written? This is especially important in this class because some of the things we're going to be reading, even this week, we're going to be reading some fables that were written a long time ago, like 6th century BC. So it's important to know that when you're reading it. Find out where it was published. In some cases, like the fables we'll be reading, some of them were recorded through an oral tradition and weren't recorded during the lifetime of the person who wrote the fable. They were recorded afterwards. So it's important to know that because things that are passed along as stories, think about it when you tell a story to a friend. It usually changes each time it's told. And then I want you to look at the title of the text. What is it called? And what do you predict the text will be about based on the title? Then while you're reading, I'd like you to circle any words that you don't know. There will be words that are unfamiliar to you in many of the texts that we're reading throughout the semester, and I'd like you to circle them and then go back and look them up in the dictionary. Mark words or passages that make you think about things you've already read or personal experiences that you've had in your life. Mark passages that you agree with or disagree with, and then state on the margin. You could write in your books. It's very important in this class. Write why you agree with it or disagree with it. If something's really difficult, you don't understand it, circle it or mark it so you know to come back to it after you've gotten what's going on. Mark passages that you like and don't like. Summarize what's being said. And you don't have to do all these things. Just do as many as you can so you feel like you're engaged with the text. One thing that I really like to do is ask questions. Ask the author questions while you're reading it. Ask yourself questions like, oh, this, I don't understand this, or like where is this guy going with this? Or ask the characters in the text questions. And then as we're learning about literary elements, you want to start identifying them as you're reading. We'll be coming back to this later in the semester, but it's something to pay attention to. If you know what a metaphor is, if you know what a simile is, and you see one, circle it and notate it. All right, the first thing we're going to be reading in this class is the beginning part of chapter 1, reading a story, pages 5 through 13. It's not a lot of reading, but I need you to read it really actively. So really, really think about these fables as you're reading them. We're beginning the semester with fiction. And fiction is not factual, right? It's using your imagination to tell a story. And it's usually, it's not a chronicle of the events that happen, like a newspaper would be. It's about how people act during situations. As human beings, we all love stories, right? Think about it in your life that so many of our lives are dependent on stories. Literary fiction, which is what we're going to be reading primarily in this class, requires great attention and it requires engagement for the reader. So you must actively read to get everything out of the literary fiction. Um, the forms of fiction include the novel and the short story. But ancient forms, which we're going to be looking at today, include the fable, and that's a brief, humorous narrative that often has animals as the main characters and usually ends with a moral. The parable, which is more realistic, and it usually has human characters, and it's also used to illustrate a moral, but it's more implicit. That means it's not explicitly stated. And then the tale, which is a story with very strange and wondrous events. Um, Types of tales that you're probably familiar with are fairy tales and tall tales. Think Paul Bunyan or the Brothers Grimm, which you're going to be reading a tale by them. So what you're going to be reading, and what I'd like you to think about when you're writing your journal entry this week is The Appointment in Samara. This was translated by W. Somerset Maugham in 1933, and it's a fable. You're also going to be reading The Fox and the Grapes. This is Aesop, and that's someone many of you are probably familiar with. He lived around 6th century BC, and this is also a fable. You're also going to be reading The Camel and His Friends. This is by Bidpai in 4th century, and it's also a fable. Then you're going to be looking at Independence. This is by Chuang Tzu from the Zhou Dynasty, 4th century BC, and this is a parable. Then finally, I'd like you to look at Godfather Death. This is by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, and it was published in 1812, and this is a tale. So when after you read these texts actively, and it sounds like a lot, but they're all very short, you guys. After you read the text, please answer the following questions in a reflective journal entry. If you have any questions about creating a journal entry, if you're kind of worried about it, read Writing as Discovery, Keeping a Journal, and that's found on pages 1991 to 1994. The questions I'd like you to answer are, what fables have you heard of before reading these selections in our text? How is An Appointment in Samara different from Aesop's The Fox and the Grapes? The original Greek word for the fox's description of the grapes is amphrakes, which more precisely means unripe. Does the translator's use of the word sour add any further level of meaning to the fable? How is the word sour different from unripe? I'd just like you to think about that. How is a parable different from a fable? Why does the protagonist in Independence change the subject and mention the sacred tortoise? Why doesn't he answer the request directly and immediately? Does it serve any purpose that Chuang Tzu makes the officials answer a question to which he knows the answer? What does this story tell us about the protagonist Chuang Tzu's personality? And how is a tale different from a parable or a fable? And finally, which of these stories are your favorite, or which one is your favorite and why? So please answer these questions. Remember, you want to use examples from the text to support what you're saying, but use these questions to help you think through and actively critically think about the fables. All right, that's it for this week, you guys. We're off to a good start. Next week, we're going to be talking about plot in fiction. There'll be a lecture, there'll be reading in chapter 1. We're going to listen to The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. And we're going to have a conversation, close reading for plot, and you're going to be writing a reflection journal. That's it for this week. I look forward to seeing you guys online.